Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. I'm your host, Nick Toka. On today's show, we've got everything tanking on every financial market, probably around the globe, certainly in the US and on the crypto side, because DeepSeek triggers sell-off. And the question is now a good buy the dip opportunity? A lot of analysts say so. I am going to later on teach you guys how to install this DeepSeek step by step. It's actually really easy, and we're going to install it locally on our computer so you're not subject to giving any of your private information away. And with this, you'll be able to install technically any of the large language models. So stay tuned for that. Also on today's show, MicroStrategy expands yet another buy of Bitcoin holdings and now owns 471,000 Bitcoin worth $46 billion. And also on today's show, absence of Bitcoin. Panic selling suggests BTC drop below 98,000 is short-term blip, says Analyst. All this and so much more on today's show. Welcome, folks, to Crypto News Global. And as you see, everything is in the red today. Bitcoin's bounced back, but the S&P, NASDAQ, everything's bleeding red. And it's because the AI model from China called DeepSeek was launched. It was actually launched last week, but, the U.S. markets opened and they reacted poorly. So we will go through all of that. Now, the reason this is happening is NVIDIA is the biggest producer of the video cards that the big AI models use. So OpenAI is huge into these. Microsoft also has a big stake in these video cards, that these H100, I believe they are, model that the OpenAI models are kind of based on. So when these big data centers are running thousands of these, potentially millions of these things, very expensive, very state-of-the-art, and then China comes along and they basically came up with their own AI in a lot less time, with a budget of about $5 million and with employees of less than 200. And then, of course, OpenAI ChatGPT is doing this with thousands of employees, billions of dollars. And then here comes this little Chinese company, and they come up with a faster, quicker, less labor, hardware-intensive AI model that apparently is just as fast, if not faster, and better, and of course cheaper. And you don't need these huge data centers to run this thing. You can pretty much run it on a slow computer. So I'm going to teach you guys how to actually install it and many of the other existing models on your computer today, later in the show. It's a pretty simple process. Also, stories for today, MicroStrategy. Once again, our buddy Michael Saylor has bought more Bitcoin. It is Bitcoin Monday. He seems to buy it every single week. And also, everything else tanked today in terms of financial markets, especially NVIDIA, who lost over $1 trillion in one day. It's the first time any company's lost $1 trillion in a day in market cap. But Bitcoin, on the other hand, pretty much held steady. It dipped a bit, a couple, 3%, I think it was, but everything else is tanking, 10%. Financial markets, 10%, 8%, 7%. And the good old bitty, it went down a bit, but I expect that this is actually a good thing for the Bitcoin. So let's get into our market watch, and we can take a look at how the Bitcoin did. Not really today, but it's 11 p.m. Eastern right now. So let's get into what it looks like now. Earlier things were bleeding, and we can go into a couple charts. So Bitcoin right now is at 102,750, and you see most things are back in the green here. Ethereum up 1.25%, 3202. Solana up 2%, 237. XRP up 3.7% at $3.09, and Doge up 2.75%. If we go into crypto bubbles here, so everything today, early in the day, it was completely red. The AI coins were pegged quite a bit, which doesn't actually make sense. I think they're the ones that have the most to gain, because if AI is getting cheaper, then these AI coins can be basically, they can use cheaper AI training to do the work that they need to do. So I expect that these are going to turn around, and they're the ones that are going to take advantage of this the most, the AI coins. If we go into our weekly view, we've got XCN up 150%, Fartcoin down 40%, and into our monthly, XCN up 1,000, a cool 1,000%, XRP up 42%, Jupe up 42%, XDC 42%. If we go into our crypto market cap, we've got Bitcoin at actually up from yesterday this time at 2,036 billion, Ethereum 386 billion, XRP 178 billion, Solana 115 billion, Doge just under 50 billion, Cardano 33 billion, and Tron to wrap up the top 10 at 21 billion. Total market cap holding steady from yesterday, $3.45 billion. Bitcoin at 59% of the total crypto market cap. Ethereum 11.21, also holding steady. XRP holding steady 5.2. Solana losing a little ground at 3.36. And if we get into our crypto greed and fear index, we have currently a 72 in greed, yesterday 71 in greed, and last week a 76 in greed. And we've got 1150 days until the next Bitcoin halving in 2028. There are 168,857 blocks still to mine until that date, and until the year 2140 there are 1,183,929 Bitcoin left to mine. And we see the big flippening again here in the global organization market cap. So gold still holding steady. It's actually dropped a bit from, it was at 18.6, now it's at 18, so it dropped about $200 billion. But the big story here is Apple hasn't really moved much, 3.4 trillion. Microsoft had a bit of a dip at 3.2 billion. Nvidia has gone from number 2 to number 4 in one day. Crazy. So they're now at 2.9 trillion market cap. Amazon 2.45, Google 2.3, Bitcoin holding steady 2.034. Saudi Aramco 1.8, silver 1.7, Meta and Tesla to wrap up the top 11. And you can currently get 969 Satoshis for $1 US. And worth noting, the US debt only went up $3 billion yesterday, the least amount that I've seen it go up since I've been doing the show, but still, of course, climbing, and currently at 36,406,200,000,000, with 107,032 owing per citizen and 323,046 per taxpayer. So I'm excited to show you guys exactly how to install this DeepSeek. And of course, I'm more excited. I've tested it. Okay, it's kind of fast. I'm more excited to show you guys how to install all of the LLMs locally, and you can kind of do it all in one shot. It's all, once you get it set up, it's super easy to install as many as you want. Really depends on the size of the hard drive you've got, but I have 2, 4, probably 6 installed. Some are good for one thing, some are good for another thing. There's AI is good for languages. Llama uncensored I like. It's good for swearing and telling you the truth. The DeepSeek seems super fast. You kind of can get a gauge, and they're all free, and should have some fun with it. Let's get into our stories for today. Good old Michael Saylor. Another Monday, buying $46 billion. Today, MicroStrategy, relentless Bitcoin buying spree continues, adding 10,100 Bitcoin for $1.1 billion, with 471,100 BTC now in its treasury, valued at $46 billion. The firm reinforces its commitment to Bitcoin-centric strategy amid market volatility. Good for him. Talk about buying the dip. Now let's move on to our next story of the day. Bitcoin DeepSeek-Triggered Selloff is a buy the dip opportunity. Buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the motherfucking dip. Analysts say overzealous hopes for Trump's crypto actions last week had primed the market for a pullback, but the decline could be already over, said Standard Chartered Jeff Kendrick. Kendrick of Standard Chartered said the crypto sell-off was driven by overblown expectations for Trump policies last week and the Nasdaq's correction, arguing the worst for BTC may be over. London Crypto Club analysts called for the decline a knee-jerk reaction, framing it as a local low in a broader bull market with strong macro fundamentals. Bitcoin was trading in below 100,000, down more than 4% in the past 24 hours, while the Nasdaq was lower by 3%, led by a 15% decline for Nvidia. Crypto assets saw a panicky decline overnight alongside a Nvidia-led tech stock plunge on DeepSeek's more efficient artificial intelligence model, with Bitcoin at one point sliding from a Sunday high of 105,000 to below 98 before bouncing back to its current level just below 100,000. We just saw it's at close to 103 again. Warn this could be the start of something even deeper in terms of pullback. Among those taking the other side of that trade is Jeffrey Kendrick, global head of digital assets at Standard Chartered Bank. Buy the dip, he said Monday morning. Kendrick 1 week ago warned of a potential 10 to 20% correction thanks to market having priced in overzealous expectations of a Trump crypto executive order and strategic reserve. The overnight sell-off, he argued, likely took care of much of this. While there might be some more pain ahead this week, with the U.S. big tech companies reporting earnings this week and the Federal Reserve January meeting result Wednesday, Kendrick took note of the rapid decline in U.S. Treasury yields, the 10-year note yield now nearing 4.5%, as signaling much of the downward move is done. Yeah, I feel like the downward move is done, and it all happened kind of in one day, and it's already bounced back. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But this DeepSeek thing here, so, I looked into it a bit, and really the way they did it was they have created a more efficient model that doesn't need huge processing power. So the first thing they did was the OpenAI, they go to the 32nd decimal space. So the DeepSeek instead said, well, let's save some and we'll go to the 8th decimal space. So instead of 32, 8 decimals. Much better design. The next thing they did was they, instead of the way that the OpenAI reads, they read every single word for word, kind of like a kid reading. And instead, they are reading in phrases. It's not quite as accurate. It's apparently 90% as accurate, but good enough when you're talking about speed. And then the last thing they did, which was the big decrease in resource required, was instead of the entire language model having every capability, they instead made specializations. So in real life, you've got, a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a, gymnast, a finance specialist. So they've basically split these all up. So they're not being used at all times. So thusly, there's a lot less resources required. Once it gets invoked, like if you ask a question about finance, then it's going to invoke the finance section. But this thing is not running at all times. It's just running, and only upon request does it come to life. So instead of running, a huge continual model with everything running all at once, only what is needed is running. So again, this is saving. This was actually turned out to be the biggest saving. So they reinvented the AI model from the bottom up. Now, they say they're not using NVIDIA chips. Apparently, there was a ban on sending these chips to China. I've heard speculation that they're not telling you that they're using these chips because they're not allowed to. It's illegal. They shouldn't have them, but they are, in fact, using them. I don't know where the truth lies in all this, but regardless, I tested it. It's okay. And for the fact that they did it for $5 million and companies are, spending hundreds of billions, it's comparable to the space race. They're basically, now who's going to get there first? Who's going to get there cheaper? Who's going to use less resources? Who's going to use less energy? Just a couple of months ago, it was, hey, we have to build these huge data centers and spend all this money, and it's going to cost billions and billions. And, Trump just announced a $500 billion company that's going to be spending, bringing AI into the new millennium and all this. And then here comes this little Chinese company that does it all for $5 million with, a couple hundred people. So it was a big blow to NVIDIA. They are definitely dependent on OpenAI and Microsoft. They've got big bets and big orders and big purchases from these huge companies. And maybe everything's now turned on its head, and now it's a race to who can do this more efficiently with the least amount of power and the least amount of processing required. Let's move on to our next story, and then we will get into how to install this DeepSeek on your actual computer so you're not giving your information anywhere, so it stays private only on your computer and not shared over the internet. And that's going to go with all these models that we can install in the same sequence a little later on. Our next story, absence of Bitcoin panic selling suggests BTC drop below 98 is a short-term blip. Bitcoin sell-off to 98,000 was followed by a healthy response from dip buyers. Is a snap back to BTC's range highs the next logical step? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It definitely, here's the chart, and I definitely am thinking it is a buy the dip opportunity, and it's still, it's already back to 102.5. But this, you see right away, a bunch of buyers came in, and a big green candle almost immediately. Bitcoin price witnessed a sharp decline of 7% toward the tail end of January 26 to the early hours on January 27, dropping under 100,000 for the first time since Donald Trump became the 47th president. Since then, crypto asset has teased a position above 100,000 as the market contemplated the next directional bias. Bitcoin short-term holder loss remains low. There has been a noticeable conflict in the market sentiment over the past couple of weeks, with some analysts calling it a market top while others remain optimistic for another leg up. I feel like the huge leg hasn't even started yet. For the better part of the previous week, President Trump's tight-lipped demeanor on any crypto-related executive orders during the inauguration speech did not sit well with the Bitcoin community. Researcher pointed out that short-term holders took minimal part in the recent BTC sell-off. In a post on X, the analyst Axel Adler Jr. highlighted that BTC's short-term holder profit loss to exchanges remained under 2,000 BTC. On the previous 7 occasions, when BTC dropped more than 5%, more than 5,000 BTC were moved at a loss on exchanges. The analyst said the recent shake-off did not indicate any major panic selling in the market. In the light of that, Zhao Wedson, AlphaCurl founder, also said that the buying pressure has swiftly returned after the price dropped under 100,000. However, a significant amount of long positions were compromised. Glassnode, a data analytics platform, said more than 68 million longs were liquidated in 24 hours, the platform added. Will Bitcoin see a swift reversal? One particular trend observed with Bitcoin over the past few months is volatile Monday price action, which can often determine the weekly low or high before reversing in the opposite direction. This can usually occur when the price moves sharply in a low liquidity sessions before reversing in the actual direction once the U.S. market opens. It is important to note that the losses can compound later in the week, but over the past 8 weeks, BTC price has established its weekly high or low on a Monday. Interesting. I didn't even notice that. So I'll keep an eye on that in the coming weeks in terms of the Mondays predicting the price of Bitcoin for the whole week. All right, so we have this Ollama comes in, DeepSeek comes in, kills the market for NVIDIA, and so you want to try DeepSeek. You don't want to give your information to China because they're saying don't use it. It's, if TikTok is taking your personal information, then, of course, a Chinese large language model could be doing the same. So instead of going to their website and, DeepSeek and run this, you can run it right through the website, the same way you can with ChatGPT. You can ask their questions and get it. Instead, we're going to go to a local model where you're actually installing it right on your box, and you don't have to rely on any kind of outside source. So everything stays on your computer. There's no BS. There's no crap. There's nothing going out to the internet. The entire model runs right off your computer. So pretty easy to do, and let's get right into it. First of all, I have the steps. It's going to be written right into the comments section of this video. So you can definitely go step by step. All the links are there, and set it up that way. But for now, let's get through this. So we first want to go to Ollama.com. Ollama.com. When you get there, you're going to get the download. You're going to choose your operating system. We're doing it in Windows. You're going to download it. The file will end up in here. Download for Windows. Here's your file. you are going to, I already have it installed, I'm not going to do it, but when it's finally installed, you are going to simply right click, open, it's going to install it. Once it's installed, you're going to sit around and go, huh? I don't see a difference. So what you want to look for is down here in your system tray, you'll notice you're going to have Ollama. Okay, and there's not much you can do with it here, but it is installed. Now, how do you use this thing? So you're going to open a program that is part of Windows already, so it's not something you have to additionally download. You're going to open PowerShell. So if you just hit the start button, or if you've got Windows 11, your start button is somewhere in the middle here, and you just type in PowerShell, Windows PowerShell. I've got a couple versions. Yours is probably going to look like this blue one. This is the more advanced one, but most people have this. So you're going to open PowerShell, and when you're in PowerShell, you simply have to type Ollama, and you're going to go, first of all, that's the command, Ollama. Okay, and if you go list, it's going to tell you all the ones you have installed. Well, you don't have any installed because we basically just downloaded this thing. So what you want to do next is you want to go into the Ollama website, and if you hit the three little dots on the top right here, you're going to get models. So you hit models, and any of these things, any of these AIs, you can basically install. And super easy. The way to install any of these is you just type, again, going back into our PowerShell, you type Ollama, pull, and then the one you actually want to install. So now when looking at this, so you want to install, I presume, the DeepSeek. This is kind of what you're here for, right? They've got 1.5B, 7B, 8B, 14B, 32B, blah, 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 blah. Now, let's just take a step back here. 671B, this is not for you. This is for a company who has a huge data center. 70B, same thing. 32B, same thing. I've tested. I've got a pretty good box, 64 gigs of RAM, a 8 gig, 3070 video card. I tested the 14B, was slow. I tested the 8B, was slow. The 7B, also slow. And when I went into the basic one, which is probably what everybody wants, and this is what they're basing their benchmarks on most likely, this thing flies. So if you notice, if you go down to any of these, you'll notice they all have, a lot of them will have the 8B, 7B. So if you click on this, it gives you more information. So from here, you can actually see how big it is. So for example, this 8B one is 4.9 gigs. If you went to these other ones, they are 43 gigs, 243 gigs. And you'd think, oh, I want the biggest one because that'll have the most information. No, that's going to be the slowest one. That's going to need the most processing power. So you actually want, to start with, I would suggest going with the small one. So you want to go, you want the DeepSeek. So I'm just going to first remove my DeepSeek because for demonstration purposes. Okay, so we want the 1.5, so we're going to choose the 1.5, and here's the command, right? So we back to our PowerShell, Ollama, pull DeepSeek -R 1 colon 1.5b and enter, and you'll see it's starting to pull it. So this one's only 1.1 gigs. If we look at the other versions, 4.7, 4.9, you're going to stick between this 1.5b and the 7b realistically. But again, if you go to the 100%, the biggest one they've got, 400 gigs, this thing's going to run like shit on your computer, unless you're running a data center. Even the 7B was running pretty slow. This one, however, seemed to fly. So now it's installed. So then we can actually use it. So Ollama run, and you can, at that point, you can hit the right-hand arrow. It kind of, you see how it already starts to populate. Right-hand arrow. So we want to run Ollama DeepSeek, blah, 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 R1, 1.5. Hit enter, and there it is, ready for us to type anything, right? What is the most searched for term on Google today? Let's see what it comes back with. But we see it's pretty fast, and I'm not going to read all the shit that it's coming back with, I'll be honest. But it came back with a lot. Look, number 1, technology innovation. Number 2, climate change and sustainability. Number 3, these are topics. So as you see, it is pretty fast. And of course, that's that 1.5B model. I first went with the 14. It was slow as crap. I went with the 8. It was slow. I went with the 7. It was slow. And then I put this 1 on again. And I think it just works through major compression the way they do these. It's the same model, except it's compressed like down to nothing. So you've got your AI model right here, and you've got it in PowerShell. Okay, so if you want to end this, first of all, let's just type the same thing again, and it's going through, and I don't want that, so I can hit Control C, and it stops it right where it is. Okay, if you want to get out of this thing altogether, /by, and you're back to your prompt. So if you want to see what's actually installed in terms of the AI models, Ollama list, and you get everyone that's installed. So if we go back here on the browser, you can install any of these things, and you just have to, like, let's take this for example, and all you have to do is, first of all, it gives you a description, right? Gwen, a series of large language models by Alibaba Cloud. I don't want this, right? I like Aya. It's in here. AYA. It is fluent in 23 languages. I thought that was pretty sick. And yeah, and I tried it, and it comes back in like many of these languages exactly written in that language. Very cool. The Llama 2 Uncensored. I really like it because it's uncensored. Llama, of course, is the made by Meta. Again, all these things are free. Anything in this list on the right is free to download. So the way you would do it is exactly the same way. So you would type in Ollama pull. First of all, up arrow brings whatever you typed in last. Down arrow, up and down. You can go through this list. You don't have to keep retyping things every time. Okay. So Ollama pull, then you would actually type the exact name that it shows there. So if we wanted Gwen, we would just simply type in Quen and enter, and it would pull it. So exactly how it's listed here, that's what it's going to get. I like to go further down because I don't know what it's actually grabbing when I do that. It's probably grabbing the most pulled one. But if you really want to get into the, you see, it's probably grabbing that one. Even though I clicked on the 0.5, it brings you directly here. So again, you can see if you hit this drop down, which one am I actually getting? And if you wanted to narrow it down, okay, no, I don't want this 2 point whatever gig. I want a small one, or I want a huge one. You can hit that, and then there's the full command, the exact, 1.8B. If you just type Gwen, like I did on the left-hand screen here in PowerShell, it's going to get the default one, which appears to be this 4B, which is fine. But I'm just trying to give you a little more option here. Now, a little more context. If you want more information, you go Ollama help, and you get all the usage, the things you can do with it. If you want to, I'm tired of, one of these things and I don't want it anymore, you just type Ollama RM and the exact name. So, for example, Quen. When you type this, it deletes the entire directory and the data for all this model. So you could see how these things add up in size, right? So I don't know if you want your hard drive full with this stuff, but you find the ones you want, and then you remove the ones you don't want. So this is cool. You can run the full model in PowerShell just like that. So here's your installation of DeepSeek literally in 5 minutes. There you go. You're deep seeking already. Now, it's okay. You're probably used to something a little more user-friendly. So if that's the situation and you want to take this one step further, you can go with a webUI style. So if you go to that style, you can get something like this, right? So this is called webUI, and it picks up all the ones that I have installed on the left in PowerShell. It's got them all here. So if you want, again, the same as the PowerShell. If I wanted over here, Ollama, Llama 2-uncensored. I don't know if you've got it right latest or not, but probably not. I think I typed it wrong. My mistake. It needs a command. Uncensored latest. Okay, so it's running Ollama latest. What is the most used swear word in English? This is why I like this uncensored version. Most commonly used swear word in English is fuck. No kidding. But certainly you can do the exact same thing. I'm just going to copy it, highlight it, hit enter, copies it. And again, in our browser, of course, it comes back with exactly the same thing. So as I mentioned, exactly what's here is exactly what's in PowerShell. You don't need this web GUI. It is kind of nice. I'm going to have to tell you, this is more like what we're used to. People aren't used to, dealing in DOS command prompt style PowerShell. So how do you get this? All right. Also, very easy. So step one, you need to download a couple things. So the first thing you're going to download, if you don't already have it, is Docker. Okay, you need Docker for this thing to work. So the Docker website's in the description. You are probably going to get Docker desktop for Windows 64-bit or x86. You're going to download that. Once it's downloaded, you're going to go through the same thing. You're going to download it, and you are going to find it up here in your downloads, and you're going to install it. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to do it. It does require a reboot. So restart it. I forget if it wants you to register or not. Now, there's versions that want you to pay, but you don't want that. You want the free version, which is free for non-production use, and we're not using this for business. So you definitely want to choose, you don't want the commercial license, you want the free open license. I think it's called personal, something along those lines. And then if it asks any questions, then certainly you tell it the truth. No, I'm not making money off this. It's for personal use or testing software or other. There's a choice for that. Once it's downloaded, install it, reboot at the end of it. Your computer comes back up. Then you're going to go back into PowerShell. You don't need any of this. In fact, you need to get out of any of the Ollama running. And you're going to run this command, which is going to set up your web GUI. It's a bit of a command, okay? I'm not going to lie. And you're better off to copy and paste it from my description in the show notes. Now you run that thing, and basically it sets up your entire web GUI. So then you can open up Chrome or whatever, Edge or whatever browser you like, Firefox, etc., 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 and you're going to find that webUI at localhost colon 3000. Stands for localhost port 3000. So localhost colon 3000. It'll bring you here. It will ask you to register upon the first usage, so you're going to have to go ahead and do that. But then there you have it. You've got your GUI, more like what you're used to. It's very much like the ChatGPT or the Grok, all within kind of a browser look, and you can then choose whichever of the ones you have installed, and you can run it straight from here. So let's ask it, how much faster are you than ChatGPT? Talk about bias, right? Let's see what kind of crap it comes back with. Hi, I'm DeepSeek R1, assistant independently developed by Chinese company DeepSeek. For detailed information on models products, please refer to the official. Okay. Anyway, multiply. Multiply. This is what you get in here rather than PowerShell. There's no spell check or anything. You know, 2,500 times. Give it a weird number. It's answering the question before. Okay, so we probably have to go new chat. Let's go new chat. Multiply 2,500 times much better. Okay, so anyway, the more you play with this, the more you'll like it. I'm in Aya here. Fine, so you can basically choose the ones you want. You can, what might have happened is I have that Aya as the default. So if you go here, you can add more models, and I thought there was a set default, which I believe I have Aya as, so maybe that's, see how Aya answered it. Somewhere in here there's a default. I'm not going to get into the specifics of this web UI. You can definitely click on all the buttons and figure that part out. I've only been using it for a little bit myself, but the real thing here is the installation of Ollama, whether you do it, whether you enjoy PowerShell and you stick with the PowerShell, that's up to you. For me, it just wasn't enough. I'm good with PowerShell. I use, I'm a computer guy. I use that stuff a lot, but it's just not enough. There's no spell check. There's no additional features. There's no, everything's a command. Whereas this actually does a fair job of doing it on your behalf. To remove them, to add them, I believe there's some settings in here that allow you to actually add models, and it's the same thing with the exact same command somewhere in here. I thought I saw it before. But you guys can play with the web UI some more, do some more, if you need more help, ask AI, right? But hopefully this was helpful. I know a lot of people are going to want to jump on this because it seems to be the newest thing. And I feel like it's just another craze. Oh, DeepSeek, faster, better. But if you're going to run any of these models, guys, run it on your own computer. That's what I'd suggest. If, I kind of trust Grok, I kind of trust ChatGPT, but I don't know if I trust a lot of these other ones. Meta and their Llama models. I don't think I want to give my information to Meta. I don't trust them with my information as it is. I know that they sell my information. Gemini, I know that Google's selling my information, right? These are not, it's not speculative. This is happening. So as much as possible, try to run these AIs offline, which I'm showing you. It can still run pretty fast. Choose the smaller model. It is effective. It's helpful. You don't have to pass every one of your searches out to anybody. It's private and it's yours, and you can run it on pretty much any computer. I mean, mine's a decent box. You can see it here in the, you can see it in my photos. I've got I built it myself. It's pretty good and a couple years old now, but it does the trick. I do have quite a bit of RAM, 64 gigs of RAM, 8 gig video card, as I mentioned. It's an i5 with, I think it's 10th or 11th gen. So it's a respectable PC, but certainly you could try running these. You don't need anything special to run these AI models local on your computer. So I'd suggest you give it a shot. Everything we did today is going to be in the show notes. So please go through that, especially for these commands, or if you want to kind of practice. I would say it's probably a good idea to go through it a couple times, especially if you're not familiar with the PowerShell. But all the commands are there. You try it once or twice, and it's easy enough. The trick to the web UI is you must install the Docker app. If you don't have the Docker and try to run that command in PowerShell, it's just going to fail. Once you do run that command once, then it's installed. Then you can always just go to that website, localhost 3000, 3000 or 8000. I don't even remember. It's 3000. I just have it bookmarked. Once I got to it the first time, I bookmarked it, so if I ever need it, I just go back in my favorites. Done deal. So we're always talking about money here, and hopefully the AI will help answer some questions you've got and maybe help bring you some money. Always remember, though, money's abundant, money is everywhere, and time is what's scarce, so use your time wisely. If you make more money, which we all want to do, spend less money. If you start making more money, don't start spending more money, start saving more money. Start saving today. If you start saving it when you're 20, you can retire when you're 40. And if you've got a great idea, by all means, don't let anybody tell you it's a dumb idea. Don't listen to them. In fact, sometimes doing the opposite is the good way to go. Start your idea today, and it'll slowly come together for you. Even if it doesn't work out perfectly the first time, you'll learn from any mistake and you'll make it better the next time. Hopefully you all found this stream enjoyable and helpful. If you did, please share, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next stream, folks. Thanks for joining.